Barbados holds general elections this Wednesday after becoming the youngest republic in the world. In Colombia was registered the 7th massacre in less than a month this year, 2022, in the department of Antioquia in the northwest of the country. The president of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Ziad Ebrahim Raisi, visited Moscow at the official invitation of his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, in order to expand economic, political and cultural interactions between the two countries. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada. Now we begin this news brief in Barbados, where people go to the voting centers for the first time since the Caribbean nation became the youngest republic in the world late last year. A total of 108 candidates representing 7 parties and 9 independents are competing for a seat in the House of Assembly. According to the Electoral Authority, both the Barbados Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and the Democratic Labour Party presented a list of 30 candidates, that is one for every constituency. On the other hand, the Alliance for Progress Party of Bishop Joseph Atherley nominated 20 candidates, and the Barbados Solutions Group nominated 11 candidates for Parliament. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission reported that just over 266,000 people are eligible to vote this January 19th. Over 3,000 electoral officials will be on duty on Wednesday to ensure that the voting process runs smoothly. And voting in Wednesday's general elections got off to a smooth start across Barbados at 6 a.m. local time. According to official figures, just over 92% of the Barbadian population is registered to vote in the polls. The election is seen as a straight fight between the incumbent Barbados Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, and the Verla de Peza-led Democratic Labour Party. Both parties are fielding 30 candidates and will also come up against the Alliance Party for Progress, led by the former opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley, that is contesting 20 seats. As Barbados holds its general elections this Wednesday, let's take a look at how elections are carried out in the country and the parties that are outstanding candidates.
Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced this snap election on December 27th of 2021, just weeks after the country became a republic. The decision to hold early elections comes as Mottley enjoys a high approval rating and in the midst of plans to redraft the country's constitution in the wake of a transition to a republic last year. According to the Constitution of Barbados, elections must take place no later than every 5 years from the first sitting of Parliament. The previous general elections were held on May 24th of 2018, and the first sitting of a new session of Parliament was held on June 5th, 2018. A total of 108 candidates from 7 political parties and 9 independents will contest the elections. The Barbados Labour Party, founded in 1938, and the Democratic Labour Party, founded in 1955, are the main political parties in the country. The two have alternated in power since independence in 1966, with the Democratic Labour Party holding office 1966 to 1976, from 1986 to 1994, and from January 2008 to 2018. Meanwhile, the Barbados Labour Party governed from 1976 to 1986, from 1994 to 2008, and has formed a government from 2018 to the present day. Leading the Barbados Labour Party is current Prime Minister Mia Mottley, who is seeking re-election. Rivals for the post are Verla de la Pieza, leading the Democratic Labour Party, and the former leader of the opposition in the House of Assembly, Joseph Atherley, representing the recently formed Alliance Party for Progress, an electoral alliance between the People's Party for Democracy and Development and the United Progressive Party. The 30 members of the House of Assembly are elected by first-past-the-post voting in single-member constituencies. All Barbadians 18 years of age or older are eligible to vote. Over 266,000 Barbadians are registered to vote this Wednesday. Turnout at election is usually above 60% of the electorate. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission is responsible for the registration of voters, conduct of elections, and the delineation of constituency boundaries. Barbados is divided into 30 electoral districts or constituencies. Over the past 2 weekends, the Electoral and Boundaries Commission completed its training of over 3,500 electoral officials to operate within the pandemic, adhering to all COVID protocols outlined by the COVID Monitoring Unit for voting day.
Now we move on to other topics. The National Electoral Council of Cuba and all its territorial instances advance preparations for the popular consultation of the Code of the Families. The highest authorities of the Council reiterated that the consultation, to which more than 7 million Cubans have been summoned, will be held from February to April this year with the purpose of allowing citizens to express their opinions on this important legislative text. They detailed that more than 900,000 people are involved in the organization and development of the process, and 12,513 electoral commissions have been created and 109 with special character. The president of the highest electoral body on the island, Alina Balseiro Gutierrez, also explained during a press conference some details about the dynamic test that will be carried out on January 27th and 28th.
They will be work and simulate proposals as if they were the voters. They will transfer those proposals made by all of them, and it will be done by popular council. We will make only one proposal per popular council. We have an average of 7 to 10 constituencies per popular council. With our authorities, and well, we will introduce the computer system that is designed for that purpose.
We remain in the Caribbean. A Haitian magistrate's request for more time to investigate the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse has been denied. Bernard Saintville, dean of the Court of First Instance of Port-au-Prince, did not explain why he refused to grant an extension. He was responding to a request made by Gerry Aurelien, the judge investigating the July 7th fatal shooting of Moïse at his private residence. In court documents filed in late December, Aurelien simply requested a considerable delay to pursue the case. More than 40 people have been arrested, including 18 former Colombian soldiers, the majority of whom were dubbed. Authorities in Jamaica recently arrested 2 suspects south in the case, including an ex-Colombian soldier who was later charged in the U.S. and a former Haitian senator. Another suspect was arrested in the Dominican Republic earlier this month. And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South, and please join us as we keep our focus in Colombia, where the 7th massacre in less than a month this year, 2022, has just been confirmed in the department of Antioquia in the northwest of the country. The victims of this new criminal act are 3 men and a woman whose bodies were found by a family member in the municipality of Santo Domingo in the village of Las Beatrices del Corregimiento Botero. Preliminary versions suggest that the murdered people are part of the same family, and in the words of the mayor of Santo Domingo, Maria Monsalve, the murdered people were fleeing from the municipality of Don Matias. In October 2021, the last massacre was reported in the same department where 4 people were also murdered. According to the Institute of Study for Development and Peace, in the past, in 2021, 92 massacres were perpetrated in Colombia. And the Venezuelan government reinstated electrical service to 100% after an attack on the national system. The Ministry of Electrical Energy thanked on Twitter the efforts of the workers of Corpoelec company for their role in the restoration of services in the southwest of the country. The Vice President of Public Works and Services, Nestor Luis Reverol, informed that he was currently supervising and monitoring the process with the involved teams. Until now, the national government has denounced the attacks on the electrical infrastructure as part of a sabotage being executed in different fronts, strategy picked up by the Venezuelan right wing with foreign aid at seeking to prompt social agitation. And the new scandal has hit the former de facto president of Bolivia, Janine Áñez, who has been linked to a coup plot involving Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro. According to an investigation carried out by the Argentinian newspaper Página 12, Jair Bolsonaro and Janine Áñez may have met more than once secretly in Brazil. In fact, a phrase quoted by one of the journalists who elaborated the information and that was pronounced by Bolsonaro himself will ratify the signals of the newspaper. The investigation suggests that the network was made up of a series of flights, relations and agreements such as hidden flights, the escape of ministers and perhaps the delivery of weapons to the coup sectors. This was detailed by an Argentinian journalist, Darío Pignori, in an interview produced by Bolivian public television.
As you well know, Ivan, there are many speculations, many hypotheses, many versions. But that Bolsonaro met with the former de facto president Janine Áñez is official. President Jair Bolsonaro said it in one of his usual interventions, practically in national TV. Every Thursday he speaks from Brasilia to the whole country, from the official residence, from the Palace of Alvorada, from the Palace of Planalto. What matters is that this statement has the nature of a declaration of states. He said exactly that: I was with Janine Áñez, she's very nice. And then the Brazilian president complained that she was in prison, with which he reiterated his sympathy. There was a policy with which Bolsonaro always expressed sympathy, so that with this affirmation of Bolsonaro and contrasting his statements with the agenda between Brazil and Bolivia during the government of the former de facto president, and noting that in all that period there was never a formal meeting between the two, it is valid to hold at least as estimates that Bolsonaro and Áñez had a secret and clandestine meeting. This could have happened perhaps in one of the more than 15 trips made by the Bolivian presidential plane, trips that were made to Brazil between November 2019 and May 2020.
And journalists gathering in Tijuana in northwestern Mexico to demand justice after the murder of the day before of one of their photographer colleagues. A homicide that raises the question of the fight against impunity and the motives of the crime. Police affairs specialist Margarito Martinez was shot dead on Monday while leaving his home in the main border town with the United States. California attorney Hiram Sanchez Zamora said the murder weapon had already been used in 5 other homicides. The victim had asked in December for his inclusion in a protection mechanism for journalists indicated in the NGO Yo Si Soy Periodista, I Am a Journalist. According to the NGO, Martinez had expressed his concern and his fear for his safety threatened by alleged criminal groups. The journalist collaborated with the weekly Zera and the daily La Jornada, as well as with international media reported from Tijuana, a city that gave its name to a powerful drug cartel.
The attack was directed at him. There is no doubt about it. The injuries are similar. We can conclude the person shot him at close range, but I insist, I cannot rule out any line of investigation. Generally, these cases go unpunished, and we have a dishonorable second place in the world's list of the most difficult, riskiest countries to practice journalism.
In the United States, District Court Judge Laura Taylor Swain approved on Tuesday a debt adjustment plan for Puerto Rico, aimed at addressing the economic downturn and restructuring the more than $70 billion debt the Caribbean island accumulated in the years leading up to 2017. As part of the debt adjustment plan, public sector pensions were maintained and the public employee retirement system and the public building authority were approved. According to the Fiscal Oversight Board, the terms of the plan will also help to reduce the debt by 80% and will allow Puerto Rico to save over $50 billion in debt service payments. However, multiple political organizations have considered that the debt accumulated in the years prior to 2017 is illegal and shall not be paid, and warned that the measure could cause Puerto Rico to return to bankruptcy. Now we address other topics. On Wednesday, Cuba's COVID-19 task force's health authorities of the island announced that Cuba goes through the peak of its new pandemic wave, as it was predicted by epidemiologists and other experts. During the meeting, which was attended by the President of the Republic, Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, the scientists and specialists insisted that in order to control the disease in the country, the nation should advance in vaccination with booster doses. The epidemiologists recalled the behavior of the waves of contagion in other nations, which indicates that the island should enter a sort of steady number of cases before seeing a decrease. According to the Dean of Mathematics at the University of Havana, Raúl Ginovart Díaz, the current scenario is more favorable one, an opinion shared by several specialists and researchers.
This forecast, which I see is already very encouraging, is telling us that we are at the peak, but that the decline will occur quickly, which is still causing concern in the sense that some of us think it will be so, but others disagree. Therefore, the forecast compared to last week is more favorable, and we still have to be very attentive to the situations that may arise in the country. But the trends indicate a certain control of the pandemic in the next few weeks.
And Venezuela recorded on Tuesday more than 2,000 new COVID-19 cases, the highest rate of contagions since the pandemic began in early 2020. The Bolivarian nation surpassed the previous record on April of 4,000 in 2021, with more than 1,000 infected. The Vice President Delcy Rodriguez announced the data through her Twitter account, where she also pointed out an incidence of 34% and highlighted that since March 2020, the first coronavirus cases in the country did not reach 2,000. Because of the situation, she called on the citizens to comply strictly with the health measures, as well as to attend the vaccination centers and participate actively in the National Immunization Reinforcement Plan. She also highlighted the arrival of million vaccine doses in spite of the economic blockade. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Syed Ibrahim Raisi, visited Moscow at the official invitation of his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, in order to expand economic, political and cultural interactions between the two countries. During his visit, President Raisi was accompanied by his ministers of foreign affairs, petroleum and economy. The Iranian head of state has already traveled to Tajikistan and Turkmenistan in line with the 13th administration's approach to maximizing ties with the neighbors and regional countries. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov expressed pleasure with the visit of the Iranian president to Russia. The two sides described the trip as an important development in the relations between the two countries and also a good opportunity to expand and deepen the ties. The head of the U.S. diplomacy, Anthony Blinken, visited Ukraine in what many see as a show of support amid fears of an alleged Russian invasion, repeatedly denied by Moscow. The head of the U.S. diplomacy, once his agenda in Ukraine is over, will continue on to Germany and then go to Geneva in Switzerland, where he will hold a meeting with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. As Blinken told the press accompanied him on the flight, the meeting with the Russian chancellor is aimed at lowering the tone on the Ukrainian issue. Today in Kiev, Blinken will meet the Ukrainian Foreign Secretary Dmytro Kuleba and later with President Volodymyr Zelensky. The State Department confirmed that the visit of the senior official to Kiev is a statement of intent to make clear that nothing is done about Ukraine without Ukraine. Bulgaria's President Rumen Radev swore office on Wednesday for his second term, along with Vice President Ilyana Yotova. 58-year-old former chief of the Bulgarian Air Force won elections by a landslide. His new term will officially begin on Saturday. Radev pledged to investigate the corruption practices of his predecessors and to tackle poverty and inequality and raise quality of life in what is considered by some analysts to be the poorest country in the European Union. The former NATO member referred to the crisis between the West and Russia as a matter that requires dialogue and diplomatic efforts to de-escalate, rolling out a military solution.
My duty as head of state is to return the agenda to the long-term goals of the nation, far beyond the horizon of political mandates, tackling the demographic crisis, dealing with poverty and inequality, raising the standard and quality of life, spiritual development, guaranteeing sovereignty and security, the assertion of national interest and dignity, affirmation of the positive image of the country abroad.
And now we move on to Europe, as 6 people were dead in a fire at Spain retirement home. 6 elderly people died and 2 others were seriously injured when a fire ripped through a retirement home near Valencia in eastern Spain. Rescuers evacuated 71 people. 3 men, aged 67, 79 and 85 were among the dead, along with 3 women aged 78, 89 and 95. Mayor Amparo Orts said that the wing affected by the blaze had been very badly damaged, and it was not clear whether the residents will be able to continue operating. Initial reports pointed to an electrical fault in one of the bedrooms, but Orts said that it was too early to establish a cause. They are declaring 3 days of official mourning from today until Friday and will hold a minute of silence at midday on Wednesday, she said. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez sent his condolences to the families of the victims.
The fire started on the 4th floor in one of the rooms of the 4th floor, in a room where there were 2 elderly people, and when we arrived the fire was out of control, and with a lot of people asking for help, above all on the top floor. We rescued people, a lot of people, around 20 to 25 people that we evacuated from the rooms in the affected area and the top floor. After the fire was extinguished, we found, as I said, the fire was out of control, making survival impossible in that place.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For Telesur English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.